Most people can recognize a dangerous man, but very few can recognize a stupid one. And strangely, the most damaging men are not always the loudest, the most aggressive, or the most unstable. Sometimes, they sound completely normal. Have you ever noticed how certain men keep repeating the same phrases over and over again without realizing what those words reveal about them? Because with time, you begin to notice something disturbing about human nature. People always expose their level of awareness through language, especially men. A truly intelligent man rarely needs to prove himself, but a stupid man constantly reveals his weaknesses without knowing it, not through grand failures, through simple sentences, small phrases, repeated patterns, automatic reactions. And the strange thing is, most people never pay attention to them.
I am the watcher, and here, in Shadow Insight, we observe the hidden mechanisms behind human behavior. In this episode, you'll discover the 5 things stupid men say most often, and the psychological truths hidden behind those words. Some of these phrases may sound familiar. You may have heard them from friends, co-workers, family members, or even from someone you once respected. And by the end of this video, you may realize that stupidity has very little to do with intelligence itself, because the most dangerous form of stupidity is unconsciousness. So before we begin, tell me in the comments, what is the dumbest sentence you've ever heard a man repeat with confidence? And if you enjoy psychological analysis and hidden truths about human behavior, subscribe to Shadow Insight, because human nature always reveals itself eventually. The first thing stupid men often say is, "I'm just being honest." At first, that sentence sounds respectable. Honesty is supposed to be a virtue. But watch carefully. A lot of men don't use honesty to tell the truth. They use it to justify cruelty. Have you ever noticed how some men say something unnecessarily harsh, then immediately hide behind honesty? "You've gained weight." "I'm just being honest." "You're not that attractive anyway." "I'm just being honest." "No one really likes you." "I'm just being honest." The strange thing about people is, intelligent individuals usually understand timing, context, and emotional consequences. A stupid man does not, because he confuses impulsiveness with courage. He thinks saying everything that enters his mind makes him real. But in reality, it often reveals poor self-control. And with time, you begin to notice something deeper. Many stupid men are obsessed with appearing dominant, especially in front of other people. So they weaponize honesty to elevate themselves. Freud once observed that people often disguise aggression behind socially acceptable masks. And honesty is one of the most common masks of all. Because when someone reacts negatively, the stupid man immediately escapes responsibility. "I was only telling the truth." But true intelligence understands something important. Not every truth needs to be spoken, and not every opinion deserves expression. A wise man knows that communication is not only about accuracy, it is also about awareness, about emotional intelligence, about understanding human consequences. But stupidity rarely thinks beyond the immediate moment. That is why stupid men often destroy relationships while believing they are simply keeping it real. And the most ironic part? Many of them genuinely think this behavior makes them stronger, when in reality, it often reveals emotional immaturity more than honesty itself. The second thing stupid men often say is, "That's just how I am." A simple sentence, but one that reveals something deeply dangerous, because hidden inside those words is the refusal to evolve. Have you ever wondered why some men repeat the same mistakes for years, yet never seem embarrassed by it? They lose relationships. They destroy opportunities. They create the same conflicts again and again. But instead of questioning themselves, they say, "That's just how I am." Watch carefully. Intelligent men may have flaws. Everyone does. But intelligent men are capable of self-observation. They can feel discomfort, reflection, internal contradiction. A stupid man avoids all three, because growth requires something his ego cannot tolerate, the possibility that he might be wrong. Jung believed that people often protect their ego by refusing to confront the parts of themselves they fear the most. And many men fear self-awareness, because once a man becomes conscious of his behavior, responsibility begins. Suddenly, he can no longer blame the world, or women, or society, or bad luck. So instead, he transforms his flaws into identity. I'm aggressive. That's just who I am. I don't communicate. That's just how I am. I cheat sometimes. That's just who I am. Notice the mechanism. The sentence sounds confident, but it often hides psychological weakness. Because adapting is difficult, self-reflection is difficult, change is painful, and stupid men usually prefer comfort over evolution. The strange thing about human nature is that people often admire stubbornness at first. It can look strong, stable, masculine. But with time, stubbornness without self-awareness becomes self-destruction, especially in relationships. Because eventually, people stop trying to understand a man who refuses to understand himself. And deep down, many stupid men already know this. That is why they become defensive so quickly whenever someone challenges their behavior. Not because they are confident,
But because unconscious people instinctively protect the identity that keeps them emotionally comfortable.
the third thing stupid men often say is, "I don't care." And sometimes, nothing reveals emotional weakness faster than those three words, because truly indifferent people rarely announce their indifference. Have you ever noticed how some men constantly pretend not to care about anything? They don't care about relationships. They don't care about respect. They don't care about losing people. They don't care about criticism. At least, that's what they say. But watch carefully. Most of the time, the performance itself reveals the opposite. A man who truly feels secure usually has no need to constantly prove emotional detachment. But a stupid man often mistakes emotional numbness for strength, especially in modern culture. He learns very early that appearing affected makes him look weak. So instead of developing emotional control, he develops emotional avoidance. And the difference between the two is enormous. A controlled man understands his emotions without becoming controlled by them. A stupid man simply suppresses them until they leak out in uglier ways, through anger, mockery, coldness, passive aggression, sudden cruelty. Nietzsche once observed that suppressed emotions often transform into resentment, and resentment changes people slowly, especially men who never learned how to process vulnerability. That is why some men become strangely hostile the moment they feel rejected, ignored, or insecure. Because underneath "I don't care," there's often wounded pride. The strange thing about human nature is that people usually reveal what affects them most through overreaction. A calm man rarely needs to announce his calmness, but insecure men constantly perform emotional invulnerability. And with time, this creates something dangerous: disconnection from others, from reality, and eventually from themselves. Because when a man spends years pretending not to care, he slowly loses the ability to form genuine emotional depth. Relationships become shallow, conversations become performative, human connection becomes transactional. And the most tragic part, many stupid men think this emotional emptiness makes them powerful, when in reality, it often makes them profoundly alone. The fourth thing stupid men often say is, women only want money. And sometimes, a single sentence reveals years of frustration, insecurity, and hidden resentment. Watch carefully. A man who constantly repeats this phrase is rarely talking only about women. He is often revealing how he sees himself. Because intelligent men understand something important about human nature. People are attracted to many forms of value, not only money, confidence, presence, emotional stability, intelligence, discipline, leadership, humor, calmness. But stupid men simplify everything. Because simplification protects the ego. If every rejection can be explained by money, then the man never has to confront deeper questions about himself, his behavior, his emotional immaturity, his bitterness, his lack of direction. Adler believed that feelings of inferiority often push people to create psychological explanations that protect their self-image. And many men do exactly that. Instead of improving themselves, they create narratives. Women are superficial. Women only care about status. Good men always lose. The strange thing is, some women do prioritize money and status. Human nature is not always pure. But stupidity begins the moment a man turns individual experiences into a complete worldview. Because once resentment becomes identity, perception becomes distorted. The man stops seeing people clearly. He only sees evidence confirming his frustration. And slowly, bitterness changes his entire personality. You can often recognize these men immediately. Every conversation returns to the same themes: women, respect, success, rejection, status, as if their entire emotional world became trapped inside unresolved resentment. And eventually, people feel it, especially women, because bitterness has a psychological smell, even when words are controlled. Have you ever wondered why some men become more hostile toward women after repeated rejection instead of becoming more self-aware? Because self-awareness is painful. Resentment is easier. It protects the ego temporarily, but over time, it isolates the man from reality. And the most uncomfortable truth is this: many stupid men do not realize that the energy they accuse others of having is often the exact energy they project themselves. So what do stupid men always say? I'm just being honest. That's just how I am. I don't care. Women only want money. Simple phrases, common phrases, but behind them, hidden mechanisms begin to appear. Lack of self-awareness, emotional immaturity, defensiveness, resentment, fear of responsibility. Because the strange thing about human nature is that people often reveal themselves most clearly through repetition, especially when they believe nobody is paying attention. And that was the real revelation hidden inside this episode. Stupidity is rarely about intelligence alone. It is about unconsciousness. A man can be educated, articulate, even successful, and still remain psychologically blind to himself. That blindness changes everything: his relationships, his decisions, his perception of reality, even the way other people slowly begin to distance themselves from him. But the uncomfortable part is this: have you ever wondered how many phrases you repeat automatically, without questioning what they reveal about you? Because every human being has blind spots. Every human being has unconscious patterns. And sometimes, the people we judge most easily are simply reflecting parts of ourselves we have not fully confronted yet. I am the watcher, and here, in Shadow Insight, we observe the hidden truths people reveal without realizing it.
If this episode made you see human behavior differently, subscribe to Shadow Insight and tell me in the comments, what sentence instantly reveals a person's lack of self-awareness to you? Because in the end, the most dangerous words are often the ones people repeat with complete confidence.